Boom. What up, fam? Anthony Dream Johnson here today, co-founder and CEO of the Redman Group, founder of 21 Studios, the 21 Convention, the 22 Convention, 21 University, and president of the fucking Worldwide Manosphere. Now, today is going to be episode 122 of the Redman Group, talking about the 2020 election, Trump v. Biden. It's obviously a few other contenders, Kanye West, Joe Jorgensen, I think, the chick from the Libertarian Party. But obviously, it pretty much comes down to Trump v. Biden. So before I get into the show, quick NASCAR ad. The 21 University app is now online on the Apple App Store for iPhone and Android, as well as the Google Play Store. Let's see if I can pull that up for you guys. For your nifty Android stuff, phone, tablet, whatever you got, it should work on it just fine. And it's a free app. It's got a free 1-month trial as well, but you don't even need a membership. There is content on there for free, such as from speakers of the 21 Convention and RedMag Group who have died. So we kind of, in their memory, released their content for free on the service there. But if you want early access to 21 Convention speeches, Patriarch speeches, 22 Convention speeches, and early access, ad-free access, censorship-free access to episodes of the Redman Group that were filmed live, you can go to 21 University on the App Store there, download it, leave a review. We appreciate that, and use the app for free. It is super, super professional and awesome, and very, very nice stuff. Very, very nice. And yeah, it's super slick. I'd like to know what you think about it too, if you got any issues with it. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome to the show today our guests to help me discuss Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden, Texas Dom, and Mr. George Bruno, the Sultan. Welcome, boys.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, we might have one or two more come on today, such as Steve Berlin, Michael Foster. We'll see. But looking forward to talking about the election. We have not talked about it much on the Redman Group, actually. I think at the event a little bit, different guys went into it. But we've been talking about other things on the Redman Group. Obviously, last week was fitness, this and that. So right out of the gate, number one, I'm obviously wearing a MAGA hat. So my leanings are pretty strong and pretty obvious. I'll also be doing a full endorsement of President Trump probably tomorrow on a written statement, more extensive. Let's talk about the election. You two are both a lot older than me. You're both close to 60 or right at it. You guys are from a totally different generation. How's this election year been from your observational standpoint? Because I have very limited experience watching this stuff.
George, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Well, this is probably the most divisive election in my lifetime, literally in my lifetime. And I never thought it would come down to this, not Republican versus Democrat. It's really coming down to good versus evil. And what I'm not saying that the Republicans are good, Democrats are evil. Because I vote person, I don't vote party, never did, never will. If there's somebody on the Republican ticket I don't like, I will cast a vote for them. I am not a straight ticket person ever. I am what used to be called a values voter. It so happens that my values span from Republican to conservative, independent, libertarian types, where I am. And I encourage everyone just to go with your values. Go with your values. Don't vote politics. Don't vote because of your skin color. Don't vote because of your race or your ethnicity. Don't with any of those divisive kinds of things. Vote your values. And I found when I made that move, I probably made that move within the past 5 years. I used to be straight Republican, and then I realized that half the people that were on the Republican ticket, I couldn't stand. I hated them.
Yeah,
they were hypocrites,
and frauds.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I couldn't stand the warmongers. I mean, there was warmongers on the Republican ticket for years, and I can't say that I'm a non-interventionist. But let's get the hell out of these countries where we are just giving to them and getting nothing in return. I don't like that. I don't like purchasing loyalty.
Yeah.
I think an alliance with the United States for strength. We are the big guy in the schoolyard. That's enough. We don't need to purchase loyalty.
Yeah, you bring up a good point that maybe I should have started out with, come to think of it. But a lot of people see me tweet and they think I'm a conservative or I'm like a lifelong Republican, this and that. And I'm still pretty young,
Right.
but I've been able to vote for a while. That's not even remotely true. I never thought in my lifetime that I would ever vote for a Republican president outside of a Ron Paul during a primary. So Trump, I hated the Mitt Romney in 2012. I hated just as much as Obama. I hated John McCain, all these these rhinos. They were disgusting to me. And so, in 2016, I was going to vote Gary Johnson, third party. I was not happy with the way Gary Johnson ran his campaign in 2016 with the Libertarian Party. He seemed to soften it up dramatically from 2012. But reluctantly, I was going to do that just because I was so sick of the two-party system, which I thought was the primary issue. And I think it was a big issue and even remains in some ways. But Trump, I realized at the last minute in 2016 when I endorsed him, there's a video actually you can see on the channel still when I endorsed him, caused all this outrage. We lost like 3,000 subscribers immediately. It pissed everyone off right at the last minute in 2016. But I really never thought I would vote for a Republican president in a general election, ever in a million fucking years. But long story short, it hit me in late 2016, right before the election, that Trump was fundamentally not part of that club. I had seen the attacks on him and the combativeness he had in the primaries, but it still didn't really strike me how far outside that zone he was and how much he was hated by all the people I hate. CNN, Hollywood, these weirdos, like all these fake celebrities, the media, the professors, the academics, all these fucking losers. And I realized that everyone I hated in the world hated this man. So I was like, this guy is fucking awesome. I love this man. And it actually was the pussy tapes that convinced me to finally vote for Republican on the primary. Not because it's hysterical and manly and masculine to grab women by the pussy. They love it. I'm sure you guys can attest to that. You've been around this earth a lot longer than I have. But it showed me, though, that that's kind of what snapped, right? That was the moment when that was like that final October surprise or whatever they call it. And I was like, who gives a fuck? He grabs them by the pussy. Like, that's awesome. But number two, like, it shows me everyone, look at these people swarming like vultures. They're coming for them.
So you talked about age earlier when we've got this thing rolling. And yeah, I'm 59. And my first election I could vote for was Ronald Reagan in 1980. And I sat there in my high school years and I had to sign up for selective service, and Jimmy Carter was president. And it was not good, man. I watched what Carter had done, and I watched how weak and effeminate and everything else he was. When Reagan came along, I literally was too stupid to realize that you need to register where you live, not where you grew up. And so I had registered my voting, down in Galveston County, and I was up Texas A&M 3 hours away. And on election day, I drove 3 hours south so that I could vote for Ronald Reagan, and stood in line for like an hour and a half to vote for the man. Got back in my car and drove back to college, right? And so I was so passionate about wanting just to vote. I had the opportunity to vote. I was so flipped out that I could finally do that. It was so important to me to go and do it. I see a lot of people like that right now for Trump. They've watched what's been going on in the country for a while. And these are people that would drive 3 hours south to go vote for him and then drive 3 hours home. I see so much of that right now. I tweeted about this the other day. I don't see that at all on the other side. But also at that time when I was growing up, I was in a chemical town, a blue collar town down there. And, there were a lot of conservative blue collar guys that lived in that town. A lot of my dad's friends and stuff, they were Democrats and all that, but they were conservative and they were pretty much normal people. And you could have your arguments and then go drink a beer with them later. It wasn't like you're going to shoot somebody over it. And, now I'm talking to a young man who's 30 the other day, and he was like, well, why are you so passionate about it? I was trying to explain to him about, this new movie Plot Against the President and how everybody needs to watch it and all that. He's like, why do you care? He's like, why is it so important to you? And I'm like, I just realized because you're the 9/11 generation, man. And I don't think you've ever seen this country prospering like it has lately, and knowing that it's the way it used to always be. And that, you're just used to the shitstorm. You grew up in a shitstorm. You grew up with buildings burning and all this kind of stuff. And so I don't know, for me, it's kind of like it's it's so important that I not lose my country, because I grew up in the greatest country in the world, and I still think it is. But man, I see people that want to tear it down and tear it apart and rebuild it. When they say rebuild and become great, or whatever they want to rebuild, make it better, they're just talking about socialism and communism and trying to tear down the Republic. Yeah, man, come on. It's just crap. And I don't know, I could get wound up on this for a long time, but Trump's been,
let's do it.
Okay, I'll finish up with this and I'll let somebody take over. But I sat there in the primary in 2015, 2016, and I watched what was going on around the country. And I traveled all over the South. I talked to a lot of cops and firefighters and military guys and stuff. And everybody was like telling me the same thing. And everybody here locally was like, Trump doesn't have a chance. He's a joke. But everybody where I travel was going, man, I think I like Trump. I think I like Trump. And I sat there in the primary voting booth going, okay, John Kasich, he's an old school Republican guy, but he has governor experience. And he's probably, out of all these other Republican guys, he's probably the guy that could probably manage the country, And then I'm looking at Trump and I'm going, yeah, but man, Trump is a giant fuck you vote to the establishment. And I sat there and I looked at it. And I probably stood longer in that booth than I've ever stood in my life in an election booth. And I pulled the hammer for Trump and I said, let's shake this motherfucker up. And that's where I was, man. I was like, I don't care anymore. Shake it up, because the man cannot do any worse than all the rest of these idiots. And maybe he can. And then I got to learn more about deep state and everything else that's going on. And this is amazing. The man hadn't been killed. It's amazing he's still alive and with us. So I'm shake it up, dude. Shake it up one more time. Give me a couple of weeks. I'll go do it again.
That's actually a really good point. I'm surprised there hasn't been an open assassination attempt on him yet. I think at some point the deep state will get so desperate. I think that's what we're seeing in 2020. A lot of it. They will get so like a caged animal or an animal backed into a corner that eventually they're going to pop. It's maybe not, but I think that's likely to happen. And it's super dangerous for them to do that, though. Obviously, if they succeed, that's super dangerous. But even if they fail, and I think that's maybe why they haven't tried yet. Because if they try and fail, I mean, you turn them into a martyr. It's like, I guess what happened to Reagan back in the 80s. And it'll piss Trump off even more. And he's, prone to just getting super angry like that, which would be awesome. But then even if you succeed, you just get Pence like immediately.
I was also super surprised that some redneck didn't try to kill Obama in 8 years too. Some white supremacist guy didn't try to take him out. So I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised that our Secret Service is just probably one of the greatest protection organizations that's ever existed on this planet, man. And apparently they're keeping the men safe, and that's what they got to do. And God bless them for doing what they do. Yeah, because it's not an easy job. And we just had a ricin attempt, ricin in the mailroom at the White House recently. So I mean, there's been plenty of things that have gone down. You just don't hear about them.
Yeah. Let's back up a second, though. George mentioned something I wanted to bring up, which was basically, it reminded me of this. So George mentioned being coming down to good versus evil. And I think he mentioned specifically that it wasn't like necessarily Democrat versus Republican, but really like the actual choices and what each candidate represents as an individual. I agree. But Alyssa Milano, who came after making them great again. I don't know, was that phone going off? Anyway, Alyssa Milano, who came after me and make them great again earlier this year. She recently just said 2 days ago, I think 1 day ago, you can't love America and Trump. You have to love one or the other, which is just insane, like super, super insane. Even these Biden voters that are selling for Biden, these people, these normies that are just kind of like doing whatever. Very few of them, I think, would actually hate America. Some for sure, but not all. No way, like all of them. So that just reminded me of this, though. Like, this is a level of toxicity you see in a lot of these like high level celebrities that live in fucking La La Land all day. It's just disgusting.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I blocked that girl months and months and months and months ago, so I don't have to see any of her stupid shit, because she's a Looney Tune. I mean, she's an absolute. She's out there. She's. Come on, man. You ain't black,
man. Yeah. She's.
That's the other thing that's been so amazing about this election season is Trump is winning over the young black vote, man. He's speaking to them. He is doing things. He did it in the debate the other night, and Biden's like, you ain't black if you don't vote for me, and Trump's going, well, let's see here. What have I done? I've done it more for the black community than any president since Abraham Lincoln. And boy, it just triggered the hell out of everybody, including the moderator, which was funny. But if you look at it, I mean, he's kind of taking back steps on the crime bill, and moving some of that stuff back, and economic zones and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Speaking of the black vote, I mean, yeah, 50 Cent just endorsed Trump. This fucking page will load. I don't know, my internet's so fucking slow today. Maybe Tony's hogging it up. But yeah, 50 Cent's a huge rapper, obviously, and just endorsed Trump, kind of like Kanye did a while ago, before Kanye decided to run on his own. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you see that happening a lot, and you see the numbers, I think, too, the polls and stuff. Trump's been super successful with getting the black vote in America, way, like, alarmingly so for his enemies, right? I don't know the exact numbers, but it's apparently they're through the roof. Like,
They're
way,
thinking
way, way higher.
if he can pull 15% of the black vote,
Yeah.
that would be like a first and super extraordinary, and might be what it takes to push him over the top in certain states.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But he's been a friend of the black community since he was since he's been on the scene 30, 40 years ago. You see all his pictures with him with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and Muhammad Ali and all the fundraisers the guy was taking part in New York. And I mean, he did nothing but help the black community. And then all of a sudden in 2014, 2015, he became the devil.
Yeah, it's all a huge scam. It's all a huge fucking
He was everybody's favorite. He was everybody's favorite Democrat for years. He went to all their parties. They went to all his parties. As a real estate developer and an employer, he, in the hospitality industry, he probably has employed more African Americans, more Hispanic, more non-white people than any human being that we all know. And think about how many households that he has provided opportunity and health insurance for. To me, I like a man that creates, not a man that takes. And like I said, he was everybody's favorite Democrat. They only hated him because he started running as a Republican, and that is it. He had the power to destroy the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. He could actually make either one implode at will. That's why there's so many rhinos. That's why there's so many never Trumpers in the Republican Party. He's a non-swamp member who is a maker, not a taker. He doesn't take a salary. It's just the man is unbelievable. I was a fan of his literally over 30 years ago. There are hip hop rap songs made about Donald Trump. Like in the early days of rap, people were talking about Donald Trump and his money and this kind of stuff. You know, he was an icon. Now, do I vote for a man because of his personal life? That might contribute to it. Okay, so he's on his third wife. You know, he likes models. He likes beautiful women. Okay, that's cool.
Yep.
You know, I can't fault him for that. I'll be honest with you. One of the things that I like, I don't want to say I brag about, but I have 3 children. And they're all like really good kids. And my kids would all call you, both of you, sir, or Mr. Johnson, or Mr. Tex, until you struck them. No, please call me Anthony. Please call me Tex. My kids are like that. And what people have said to me is, man, you really raised good kids. If we're at dinner somewhere, my kids will literally get up and take your empty plates and bring them over to the sink, the dishwasher. They will take your jacket upon entering my home and hang it up and say, "Can I get you something to drink?" You know, that's how I raise my kids. It's a reflection of my values. When I look at Donald Trump's kids, they're accomplished, they're gentlemen, they're fighters, they're classy, they're smart. That's something that I've never heard anyone comment on. But I like Donald Jr. I like Eric. I like Ivanka. Barron, we don't know. He's a young man. He's grown like what is he, 6'4" now or something?
Yeah, he's crazy tall, man. Yeah.
Tiffany,
I think he's going to turn out pretty good too.
Yeah. But all his kids are good, and people have neglected. Look at, first of all, we are part of the manosphere. When we've dated women, one of the ways that we evaluate women, which we've done, is, you know, I look at their kids. In the past, if I've dated a woman, and I'm not putting down aesthetics, but I'm not ruling it out as a factor in evaluating somebody, I will never forget going to a woman's house, and we were alone. All of a sudden, we're sitting on the couch watching TV, and a young girl comes up from the basement, pierced, tattooed, literally half her hair was purple, shaved on the side. And the woman said to me, "Oh, this is my daughter." And I'm like, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you." 3 seconds later, a boy, or young man, I should say, comes up, late teens, early 20s, tattooed, pierced, big, like, ears, like, had, like, plates in his ears. And kind of ruffian, rebellious looking fellow. I mean, they were both very kind, whatever. And the young man said to me, "Sup?" Didn't come over and shake my hand. I stood up. I went out and shook his hand. I mean, I'm from the generation that says you tip your hat. You always favor the older person. You give them your chair. You stand up. You know what I mean? You make the first move. Nice to meet you, that kind of thing. And this guy just looked at me and goes, "Sup?" And then I kept thinking, what did this woman raise? She goes, "Oh, my daughter lives in the basement with her boyfriend." And of course, at that moment, I knew there wasn't going to be a date. So we've learned to evaluate people based upon how their children turn out. Now, I know there are good, upright people who end up addicts as their children become addicts or end up in jail. And sometimes there's always one that just goes off the rails. I mean, I'm fortunate. Thank the Lord, thank goodness that I have 3 good kids. But I look at our president's grown children, and they are upright. And to me, that needs to be mentioned. That did not happen by accident. And this man's had 3 marriages. Okay? And all this, like, kids, we've talked about this. Are kids damaged by divorce? Of course, it hurts them. But look what he did to hold his family together through his personal misadventures, I should say. And I think that's not recognized enough, I'll be honest with you.
I agree. This is actually a big point, looking at someone's children for sure and how they turned out. Now, the three woman thing with the 3 sets of kids, it's not perfect. Obviously, it would have been ideal to just knock it all out on the first one. But, he is who he is. You can't change the past. I will say that it's a very,
Right.
as much as I don't think that that's an imperfect process, having 3 children from 3 different women, in many respects, at the end of the day, it's a very alpha thing. Like a kind of from a evolutionary, like, I called Trump the other day an apex alpha male. And I really believe that, as funny as it is to say that, to trigger people. But one of the things that we can, even from a manosphere perspective, I mean, look, you're out, knocking up multiple women. Not like he, randomly knocked these chicks up at a bar or something in the bathroom, but he's bred children from 3 different women. At the end of the day, I think this is he's spreading his seed around to beautiful women. This is what alpha males do sometimes, right? This is certainly, as much as we might not like it, and it's imperfect for the children, it's how life turned out for him. And I think
when you talk about that alpha presence, I mean, look at the debate the other night.
Yeah.
I mean, he owned that room.
Before
and even whether
I want to get into debate next.
Go ahead.
One last thing though is, so George here brought up, the kids from Trump, but the other side, there's another side of this too, and that's of course that Hunter Biden is, kind of the equivalent of Don Jr. in terms of age and being a son, and this guy is a fucking crack addict, like literally. I mean, we need Ed Lattimore on the show to discuss the crack stuff. So this is how his opposition's son turned out. I mean, fuck, man. And then he did a bunch of other shit too. He knocked up a stripper. He's refusing to pay child support for the stripper, baby mama. Like, he was banging his dead brother's wife. Like, there's a lot of fucked up shit in the Biden family. And I'm sure Trump's children are not perfect, but by far they seem exponentially 100 times better in terms of how his adult children, have turned out. There's no comparison. I mean, Don Jr. is a kick-ass dude. He seems to be a proud, masculine man. Loves hunting and fishing and kind of old school masculine stuff. And Hunter Biden is a crack addict, literally. Like, fuck. You can't. It's hard to do worse, man. Like, I wish the best for that dude to get better, but Yeah, being a crack addict's pretty bad, man. But
And
anyway,
you know how we have these political dynasties. Wouldn't surprise me to see Don Jr. be president one day down the line.
oh, for sure.
know?
Trump, that's the best. That's one of the best things about Trump. He's got a bunch of sons. I
And,
think
Ivanka could also be the first female president too. There wouldn't take much to make that happen. I think in some regards.
Yeah. I think she, for some reason too, I think she's the most ambitious for it. Is the kind of vibe I get. And you know, if there has to be a first woman president, I don't think there ever should be a woman president. I think women should have the right to run for that office, but basically they shouldn't. But I would reluctantly vote. I would vote for Ivanka if she won a Republican nomination versus if she was in her opposition was someone like Biden. I mean, at the end of the day, I think
and I will tell you why you would do that. Okay, not because she's a woman, but because she's qualified. This is a businesswoman. I vote based upon, because I don't vote party, I vote person, and I vote resume. I was never a fan of voting because of gender, race, you know, whatever the list of nonsense is. I vote for resume. The woman is a solid businesswoman. Honestly, think about it. She probably had the equivalent of an MBA by the time she was 12 years old, having a father like Mr. Trump.
Let's have a little debate then, though, because I'm much more of an Ayn Rand fan on this, and she was outspoken a woman about this in the 70s on Phil Donahue and these other shows. Like I said, I do think women should have. I don't think we should bar Americans from running for any political office based on their sex. That's just stupid. That doesn't mean I have to vote for them. And at the end of the day, I would vote for Ivanka if it came down to it. I wouldn't hesitate, but I wouldn't be. I don't know. I'd have mixed feelings about it, but I would do it. I would do it at the end of the day, and I would support her. I would donate money. I would tell people to vote for her, most likely. You know, all that. My issue with the woman running for president versus another office like senator, congresswoman, you know, governor, even all that. The president of the United States is the commander in chief of the military, and that is, I think, his most important job at the end of the day. Assuming it's a man, and I think it should be. Men don't follow women, and women, I think, lack the empathy growing up in terms of firsthand experience, feeling that empathy to lead the military because they've never been at risk of being drafted. They're not suited for combat in any way, shape, or form. So that basically the presidency is a very special office that's unlike a Supreme Court justice, unlike a governor, unlike a senator, unlike all this stuff. They're not in command of the military like the president is. So that's the big. Even if she's qualified, like let's say Ivanka's qualified, that gives me serious concern for it because she will be in command of the military for a minimum 4 years, if not 8. So that's my big. That's why the
I'm a huge
different. Yeah,
and I agree with you on that. I'm a big fan of the YouTube channel called Police Activity, and basically it's nothing but body camera footage of cops going into heated situations. Literally, more than 9 times out of 10, when there's a female cop involved, and I know this is going to sound sexist, but what do they say? Let's discuss facts, not feelings here. 9 times out of 10, when a female is in a potentially hot scenario, it gets fucked up real fast. The female cop, I don't give a crap how equal they are in the law. When a woman says, drop your gun, just drop the gun. I've seen the criminals say, fuck that, and charge and overpower even the most masculine-ish or non-feminine kind of female cop. Whereas, when a dude is drop your weapon. You know what I mean? It's almost like the criminals look at the female cop and say, you remind me of my babysitter, that kind of thing. And I've seen females fuck up situations so bad where other cops get hurt, including themselves, that when you're dealing with President Xi or Vladimir Putin and you're a woman, come on.
Yeah, that's a whole other set of issues. These guys, president is the psychology of men and women, like driven by their biology. Women, Ivanka Trump would lack the testosterone that her brothers would have, that is going to fuel,
Yeah.
at least in part, influences your personality and how aggressive you're going to be.
Yes.
Never mind physical situations, like if you're a cop or in combat or something.
We say men are different. If that is true, that men and women are different, which they are,
Yep.
how would a female president run the country differently than a male president? Let's follow that to its logical conclusion.
Yep.
I think your only good example to even go back to and look at maybe Margaret Thatcher. Projected strength. She had Reagan at her back though the whole time, backing her up. And
Yes.
The two of them made a pretty good powerhouse. But then you see some other female that have been presidents in other countries and stuff that don't seem to work out so good. Merkel for one. But yeah, we're definitely going off in a rabbit hole on that one.
Yeah, I mean, women throughout history too. Molyneux was famous for doing a video on it, and I think he proved pretty conclusively that women throughout history who have been heads of state, queens and stuff in the past, they're much more prone to war and violence. I think with Bloody Mary or whatever, but there's a lot of them throughout history, and so this is surprising to people to hear because we hear that men are evil, men are toxic, men are violent, and it's like actually in terms of running a country, men are much more prone to peace than women who tend to run the country into war and stuff like that. I do agree that Margaret Thatcher was cool though, but also Britain is different than America, so yeah, it's complicated. But Tex, you brought up the debate.
They challenged her a lot.
Yeah. Let's talk about the debates though. There's a debate, the last one, the second and final presidential debate on Thursday night. I thought that was awesome. I was happy to see it. Tex, did you want to comment on that before I go off on a rant?
Yeah, because basically I think the first debate, Trump was trying to push Biden into an aneurysm by just jumping. And even my wife who loves Trump was like, just shut up and let him screw himself. Just shut up. He'll stick the knife in himself. And for whatever reason, maybe because, Trump had just come, I don't know, it could be a number of factors. Who knows? Somebody might've given him some really piss poor advice, but apparently they corrected the ship, I thought, nicely in this last one. I mean, if you liked Trump, you thought Trump won. If you liked Biden, you thought Biden won. But those people in the middle, they saw one man very, very strong, and they saw one man very defensive and very frail and trying to defend corruption, which a lot of people are just now hearing about for the first time. A lot of us here have been following the corruption, and the whole deep state thing for years now. And there's none of this surprises any of us, but there's some people in America going, what is that? And so I thought that was him. They were saying, okay, the moderator's never going to bring this question up about Biden's and this stuff. And Trump managed to work it in like the first 5 minutes, you made 3.5 million or something like that, and just started off and just got it going. So I thought it was a great debate. I think Trump definitely swayed some people and realized that he came across as presidential.
Exactly. So I think he came across for the first time in that kind of setting. I'm not one of these people that cares about this presidential kind of bullshit. Usually I think it's hysterical that Trump usually mocks this presidential idea or attitude. But I do think he came off as presidential in a classical sense during that debate. And that's the first time I've seen him do that in that kind of setting. He reminded me of like Reagan in that position, whereas usually Trump is much more bombastic and combative, like his first debate. So I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
I think that he did do the right thing. He didn't need to be bombastic this time. Obviously, the first debate, it was kind of a shit show, and I think he got it. I think he heard some input from people and feedback, and he just decided to change course on it, and it worked really well. And he came off very strong.
And the moderator didn't attack him nearly as much as Chris Wallace did in the first time. I mean, she still cut him off 20 times, 22 times or something like that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, he was debating Chris Wallace and Biden in the first round. And this time, at least, he didn't have to debate her the entire time.
Yeah, there were some loaded questions, too. The questions from her were loaded. But overall, I thought she did the best I've seen probably of any moderator with Trump ever. And so she's still biased. I think she was supposed to be more biased, honestly. I think she got in trouble. I think she was not. I'm glad she was less retarded than the other moderators, but I think she was probably given instructions to be more of an asshole to Trump, and she didn't do it.
She didn't have the personality.
I would like to see them. I would like to see as a moderator like Joe Rogan. Let's get real. I mean, Joe Rogan will have more viewers than the average MSNBC or CNN show. Let's get real about that. So why are they afraid of having Joe Rogan on there, who's not a trained journalist? Why don't they have them both on Tim Pool, his program? Like this is the kind of stuff that I want to see. Nobody watches TV as much as they watch things on YouTube like this, these types of things. Why can't Dave Rubin moderate?
Well,
to me, Tim Pool, Joe Rogan. Say that again.
Yeah, I think older generations still watch a lot of TV, even Gen X and
they
beyond.
Millennials
and stuff. Yeah, we're all YouTube, but I haven't had TV in years, honestly.
So speaking of Tim Pool, just FYI, Tim and Jack Murphy are going to be doing a live broadcast on the election night returns, which might absolutely be the best election coverage. I can see myself with my TV going here, watching the silent numbers and all the counts and all that. And then I'm going to have Tim and Jack in my ears so I can listen to what they have in their commentary on this. I think it's going to be epic. I can't wait.
Wow.
So,
wow.
I mean, Jack's like, this is like 3 times on Tim Pool this month. So our shout out to our buddy, Jack Murphy Live.
Yeah, man. Jack's been
good for him.
Whole year.
Right.
Fuck yeah.
Good for him. I'm happy for him.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Let's talk more, man. I wanted to bring up something a minute ago, but I forgot where I wanted to take it next.
Let me ask you this. I know Steve Brule was really concerned about Trump getting in there. I don't know if he's going to join us or not. What were some of his concerns as a fellow speaker? He was he had some important things. Not concerns about Trump, about he wanted to get a message out there about the election. I know that. Do you know enough to be able to speak for him, Anthony?
I don't. I know his speech was, he put out a version of his speech too. Let me see. I hit him up earlier too. No, he didn't check. He didn't get back yet. Yeah, I mean, he gave a speech at the convention. There was a lot of it was related to the election and stuff. We're not going to be able to get it out in time, honestly. He did put a version out though on his channel at Studio Brule. You can see. Yeah. I don't know. He's probably. I mean, I would guess he would be worried about the scams going on, the mail-in voting, all this stuff, election interference, all this stuff. I mean, that's another thing too. This election, this whole year has been just fucking. It's been so nuts with censorship and election meddling. I mean, I think the FEC now is looking into Twitter and Facebook for, I think you call it like a non-financial campaign contribution. Basically, if you're giving serious support, material support to a campaign, without money, you can still get in a lot of trouble if you're not allowed to do that in some way. And that would be like, censoring the New York Post article about Hunter Biden, all this crap. I mean, I really hope these companies, they're almost like countries. They really need to be busted up. Like, I hate them at this point. And I never would have thought I'd say that in my life. But I just have no goodwill left for these big tech companies. None. Like, they could all just be destroyed tomorrow or busted up into a million pieces. You could start rounding up the executives and charging them for treason. I wouldn't care at this point. I would cheer it on.
You go back to
really hate who runs these companies.
You go back to that Google power. I guess the brain trust of Google. Right after Trump was elected, they had someone had snuck out some video of them having their little town hall for their employees and stuff, and how they basically were all crying and stuff, saying that they were going to do whatever it took to keep him from ever getting this ever happening again. And by God, they told us they were going to do it, and they've been doing it. At some point, someone's got to come in and slap them on the hand. I remember back when they broke up the AT&T monopoly years and years and years ago. Telecoms, they broke them up, and it was one of the healthiest things that ever happened to us as a country. So it's time to break up some of these guys.
Yeah, I think it's gonna. I think we're focused on the presidential election, obviously, but there's more than that going on. They might take the House. The Republicans might take the House. I mean, if they get a full Senate, House, and White House again now, obviously. Like we saw earlier, but it was a lot more rhinos back then in the beginning of his term. I think we'll see some changes. I think things will finally happen. DC and this crap tends to work like very, very slowly, which sucks when you have big tech working so fast to meddle and fuck things up. But I think things might happen. I think they might actually take some action. There's some senators and congressmen that are really pissed off about this stuff, like Matt Gaetz, congressman, Ted Cruz, senator, and pretty savage about it. Rand Paul's fully on the ball with this stuff. They get how serious it is. Now, if they're going to fucking do something about it, we'll see. But I think if they get the opportunity when they take the House, if and when, that'll be what it takes. Then they can do something about it. What they're going to do, and maybe the FEC will do something with 230 and all that. Who knows? It's a fucking clusterfuck, man.
You know, we had the House when Trump came in, and we blew it because there were too many. There was, I don't, deep state, man. The deep state is fully entrenched within both houses of Congress.
It's beyond that too, though. It's a lot of them. There's weak beta males, man, posing as these hard asses, and it's like, fuck you.
Nothing got done.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I don't have a lot of hope for us getting the House back, that it's going to suddenly, all of a sudden, Trump's agenda is going to get passed. I don't have a lot of hope for that, because I saw too many people stab him in the back the entire time.
Well, hang on though. I've seen a lot of the Congress people, women and men, running for House, and they're a lot more savage than they were back then. I mean, it's not just Laura Loomer, I think, who won something in Florida, her nomination. There's ones all around the country that are running. A lot of them doing pretty well. So yeah, we need.
Yeah, I hope so.
But more real MAGA, the MAGA people, the peds, the frogs, we'll call them.
Yeah,
I'm all about it. Let's talk more about deep state and the Q stuff. I mean, that's been a whole thing this year. I'm not super familiar with the details of this stuff, but I know that the more things get banned, like Q now has been banned from YouTube and Facebook. I think Twitter, there's still some accounts, but they're going after the Q people hard.
Yeah.
And that just tells me, text we were talking before the show, where there's smoke, there's fire. And that's what, who knows at the end of the day what the truth behind the Q stuff is, but I'm more interested than I've ever been, because they're getting banned, because they're putting out, I think, what's true sometimes. So can you talk to me about the Q stuff, Tex? You're the most familiar with it here on the panel.
I have been following it for about 2 years now, and it was, at first I was just like, this is really interesting. This is like watching a Netflix documentary unfold, day by day. It was fun to keep up with. It has alienated me with several people that I know and love, because they think I'm absolutely batshit crazy for even thinking there's a possibility of truth to that. But like you said, there's been too much of the stuff that's gone on. I personally think that it's a psyop. I personally think that it is being run by the Trump campaign. I believe it. I think that there's a lot of disinformation thrown out there to throw people off here and there. I think people add to it. I think people add crazy theories to it, claiming to be part of the whole Q thing. And I think that that might even be deep state trying to kill all credibility. I certainly think Mike Flynn's involved, General Flynn. I totally think he's involved in this group. I think we're going to find that out one day. It's one of the things the Q has said in some of the posts, is that one day you're going to be amazed when you find out who we are. And I think that's not, I'm serious. I mean, if you haven't watched, I'm going off on the deep end again. If you haven't watched this new movie, Plot Against the President, you've got to go. It's based off of at least somebody's book, but it's on Amazon Prime right now. It's free. It's 90 minutes. Amanda Milios, can't remember her last name now, but she worked for the Trump administration for a while. She's went to film school at Berkeley, the whole 9 yards, and has put out an excellent movie. It's 90 minutes, and it's well worth anyone's time. It's free if you got Prime, right? Who doesn't have Prime these days? So definitely worth renting it for $5-6, even if you don't have Prime. It's just one of those things. If you get somebody else to watch it with you, get somebody that doesn't understand, you get somebody in your house that is kind of curious and has a bit of an open mind and really doesn't really understand. So I was trying to explain to somebody the other day who Mike Flynn was. They didn't know who General Flynn was. They had no idea how he got railroaded out of the administration and everything. So it's like, okay, so if you just take 10% of this whole Q stuff, okay, just 10% of it. If 10% of it is true, then there's some amazing stuff going on right now behind the scenes. Everybody talks about this next war that we're supposed to be in. We're in it. We're smack dab in the middle of a war right now.
You mean like a civil war?
It's electronic, man. It's happening all around us every day. And right now, the good guys I think the good guys are winning.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I never thought in my lifetime that we would see. I was a huge Ron Pauler back in the day, and I knew that there needed to be a massive, massive shakeup in politics. Either the Republican Party needed to be taken over, or there needed to be a real third party independent that actually got shit done. And like Ross Perot almost did back in the 90s. And Trump turned out to be that guy. And I never thought I'd be so proud of a president in my lifetime. I hated the presidents. I hated Bush. I hated Obama. They're all fucking losers. They're all deep state scumbags that hate America, in my opinion. I've thought that for years, since like 2010. And I never thought that someone would actually do what Ron Paul tried to do. Ron Paul lacked the money, and I think in the
You
relationships and the
can't
power.
do it as a third party candidate. You have to be able to infiltrate one of the parties.
Yeah.
We're a two-party system, period.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah, I think Ron Paul and Trump both realized that, especially Trump, and then Trump had the connections and the money to pull it off, and he did. And it's changing the course of American history and world history now in a massive way. It's so exciting to see, and I'm so proud of him. I really never thought there'd be a president in the White House that I was like super excited about and loved and respected. Like never in my lifetime did I thought the country would collapse before that happened. I really did. And here we are. You know, the guy's running for re-election. This is fucking fantastic.
I'm tickled a bit.
Go
ahead, George.
Like you, Tex, I have followed Q for 2 years. Prior to Q, I was a huge fan of this guy right here.
Yeah.
On YouTube, was watching all the anonymous videos, and they were resonating as true, not conspiracy. Now, I do have a propensity for conspiracy, but it's a good thing that I grew the big white beard, because in all the sci-fi movies, think about it, it's always the crazy old guy with white beard that ends up, ends up being right in the end. So I just quietly, quietly support the subversive, anonymous people. I'm really okay with that. No one's forcing anyone to listen to anything or watch anything. I've been having an ongoing friendly thing. My friend Anna Brees, who's a former BBC reporter who now started Brees Media in the UK, she started getting a little bit miffed at Q, thinking that Q is Trump. And my response to her was, so what? So what if he is? How brilliant is that then? So I turned her on to like X22 Report, and and she's softening up a little bit. I happen to like it because I am I'm kind of a scorekeeper. When I've heard Dave on X22 Report talk about what's happening 9 months ago, and I see it happen today, I say to myself, he's right. He was right. He's vindicated. So long story short, so what if it's a psyop? So what if it's Trump? So what? It's working. You're not going to get the truth. Now think about this. In medieval times, and I've said this for years, in medieval times, what did they do? They took hot pokers and hot tongs and ripped out the tongues of truth tellers. We don't do that today with hot tongs. We do now. We unperson. We deplatform. If you remember a year ago, Stefan Molyneux said that the unpersoning is a precursor to murder and genocide.
Yep.
And I remember everyone got quiet. There was like a hush. I asked him about that in my 21 report. I said, you said that unpersoning and deplatforming is the precursor to murder. And then he explained it, and there was just like a quiet, and he explained it so perfect. This is what the communists do. They start a campaign to silence you before they kill you. Simple as that. I mean, there was I believe it's an Exodus in biblical history where Pharaoh was persecuting Moses and his people. And there's a scripture that says, and the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. So what's happening is the more restrictions that are put on us as freedom-loving Americans. I'm not even going to say I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm an independent. I don't even want to go. I'm so much bigger than an independent. I'm so much bigger than a libertarian. I'm a freedom-loving American. Now, where's the party that best supports that? Okay.
Yep.
The more they try to silence freedom, the more we are going to multiply and grow. And I believe that was I don't believe that was just a historical fact in the book of Exodus. I believe it's a principle. The more you are afflicted for doing the right thing, the more you will multiply and grow. I mean, think about it. We have to ravage our muscles before they grow, don't we? We have to tear them down. We go in the gym and we break down the muscles. But
trauma.
When does the growth happen?
Yep.
When you sleep. The growth doesn't happen. Like the pump happens in the gym, okay?
Yep.
But we break the muscles down. When do the muscles grow? When you're sleeping. When you're sleeping. Not when you're lifting the weights and screaming and, flexing in front of the mirror. I really think that there is a sleeping giant in this country that has been growing with all the persecution, all the bullshit. And, I don't even bring religion into it. I don't bring my Christianity into it. I would love to have Michael Foster on here. Michael, if you're watching, come on.
I sent him the link.
Get on here.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. He was traveling.
Come on, man. Get on here.
He might be on. I'll text him again. But you hang on. This is a really, I want to hit the super chat. Just want to thank this guy. Family Values. Thank you for the $25 super chat. Coach Yo earlier too, $10 from him. Appreciate that big time. Trump has made being a conservative and right popular again. It feels natural and right to be conservative. Yeah, I would say that's correct. He's normalized a lot of that in a culture that is increasingly hostile to that demographic of people.
He's also made it okay to be masculine again too.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Now, this is but something George brought up, I really want to hit on before I forget it. Now, people, like I said, they view me, my tweets and whatnot, and they think I'm this lifelong Republican or conservative or even like libertarian and stuff. None of that's true. And what I consider myself is American. Fundamental Floridian too, but ultimately American. And I mean that not just in a generic kind of citizen way, but like in a political way. The Constitution is American. It's not Democrat or Republican or any of this crap. The Declaration of Independence is American. The Constitution is American. The rule of law and these things, like having a strong military and stuff, these are all American. I think American free speech, Second Amendment. These are American. I love Jack Donovan. He put out a blog post, I think, late last year, and it was about the Bill of Rights and how we can all get behind it. And he's 100% right. And if you can't get behind the Bill of Rights, you need to just leave the fucking country. Like, that's not a debate. It should not be a debate. There are things that we should not be debating on. But ultimately, so politically, I just consider myself an American. I think that's where the country needs to keep heading. That's the unification kind of route. American. I don't identify. I guess people would identify a lot of my beliefs as conservative, but other ones people are surprised by. Like, I think prostitution should be completely legalized or decriminalized. I think the war on drugs should end completely. These are not typically considered conservative positions to take. They might be libertarian or something, but I'm not really libertarian either. I hate, at this point, Libertarian Party has collapsed into a fucking joke. I mean, it was pretty bad in 2016. Yeah, now it's this total loser shit show. Like, it's really fucking. And I know one of the founders of the party was Nathaniel Branden. I got to meet him before he died in 2012 or 20. I met him in 2012, late 2012. And Ron Paul. Back in the 80s, with Ron Paul running, that's fucking badass. But now it's got some weak ass chick at the head of it. 2016 by his pussy soy boys. And Ryan, like, fucking gross, man. Yeah. Anyway, where did I want to go with this next? Had somewhere. Oh yeah, let's talk about this. So we're on the Red Man group here. We're part of the manosphere. Let's talk about how Trump has advocated or helped men and fathers in this country. Like, what has he done for men and fathers? Why is it? It's interesting. At the Trump rally, I went to one in Sanford, Florida, right near by 20 minutes away last week. It was awesome. I mean, thousands and thousands of people there. Trump rolled up on Air Force One right to the fucking rally. It was nuts. You could have thrown a rock at Air Force One. Like, that's how close he was. But you see signs everywhere. You see Black Voices for Trump, Jews for Trump, LGBTQ for Trump, all this for Trump, women for Trump. You don't ever see a sign that says men for Trump. But ultimately, I think that's why don't you see that? You see everything else for Trump, but like men. You don't see white people for Trump. You don't see men for Trump. These are two like hidden demographics of people that apparently just don't fucking exist, right? But let's look at this. This is really pissing people off. This is a Manosphere poll on the 21 Studios channel here on YouTube. And I put this out a little over a week ago. Manospherians, who are you voting for POTUS in 2020? Over 2,000 votes came in. Trump crushed it at 67 fucking percent. Biden came in basically last place at 9%. Kanye beat out Biden at 12%. And then other at 13, I guess that's people who just wanted to see the results or they wanted to vote Rocky De La Fuente, like the American Independent Party or something. But anyway, I think this really represents the manosphere. Like, not everyone is for Trump in the manosphere, but by far most are. I think 21 Studios is probably like, the heart of the manosphere. It's the offline manosphere. It's the center of the manosphere in a lot of ways. It has the most connections to the most content creators. And this, I think, is pretty reflective of what the huge community of the manosphere thinks. Like, most guys like Trump. They like that he's masculine. They, he's not perfect. He's impregnated a couple different women, several. But he seems to be, loves his children, seems to be a good father. Melania seems happy. Like, this guy's kicking ass in a lot of different ways. So talk to me. What do you two think about Trump as he's helped men specifically in America the past couple of years, and fathers even?
I've got an angle on this. I think he's made men feel good about being men again. I mean, it's okay to be a man. It's okay to have an attitude. It's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to say what you think, and have the balls to say what you think. And whatever flack comes your way, you're going to have, it's going to come your way anyway. You might as well just, man up and get ready for it. Here it comes. He's made that okay for a lot of guys. As far as the fatherhood thing goes, he's raised good kids, but I mean, I don't know about the whole, what has he done for fathers? I mean, he certainly hasn't reformed the family law system. That's for damn sure. But that one will take a miracle for that to ever happen. The thing that I think he's done for men, and honestly, I think he's done for men, is he's brought the men from different races together. And I touched on this when we started the show. I haven't voted for a Democratic candidate ever. Okay. So I've always ended up voting. So I guess I'm a straight ticket Republican guy, only because I always thought the Republican guy was a better alternative, even though that sometimes they suck. But when Obama got elected, I said, okay, you know what? He's my president now. Sucks for me. I didn't vote for him, but he's the man. He's going to be transparent, all this. And maybe, just maybe, this having a black president, half black president, whatever, is going to heal some of the racial divide in this country. And that was my prayer. I said, okay, you know what? Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe this is going to be good for our country. And it got worse and worse and worse. And so what I have seen is, I've seen since Trump came in, and it was all racist white men vote for Trump. That's how Trump got in. It was racist white men, conservative, but mostly racist white men. And he's the new KKK leader and all that kind of. He's
Hitler.
Done more.
Literally
he's done
Hitler.
More. And what did Mr. Peterson say? JLP say the other day on the 21 report when he was asked about race, he was like, it never entered my mind.
Yeah.
What about race? There's black men here, there's brown men here, there's yellow men here, there's white men here. And he was like,
21 Summit, you mean? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 21 Summit. He's like, it never even occurred to me.
Yep.
And that's what I was thinking. It's like, dude, we're just men. And that's one thing I think Trump has done more than people give him credit for. And I think that's the amazing thing that I've seen.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, Tex, that he has normalized being a man again. Like, it's okay to be a man. It's okay to be kind of an asshole. It's okay if you want to pop off and get angry and be a little loud, it's okay. I mean, he has opened the Overton window on masculinity, I think, is what the technical analysis of that would be. He really has. Even as for him cursing as president, he was on Rush Limbaugh the other day. And he was like, fuck around and find out with Iran doing shit. Yeah. I mean, that's hysterical. Yeah. When do you hear a president talk like that candidly on a radio show?
Yeah.
Or when he goes to rallies and he's talking about the impeachment and he's like, this ridiculous bullshit. I mean, it's just it's number one, it's funny, which is good. It gets people laughing. Communists and feminists, they hate laughter. They hate comedy and humor because it pokes holes in their totalitarian shit show that they're trying to get going. But Trump is funny. He curses a little bit, which I think is masculine. I know George has gotten in trouble for that in his own communities, which is just ridiculous bullshit as well. But I love it. I mean, and it really does. I think you're right, Tex. He really helps. It's helping men push back against this onslaught of anti-masculinity propaganda. Whether you like Trump or don't like him, I think this is a fact you can look at. This isn't being bombastic in that type of masculinity, that type of alphaness. That's a legitimate form of masculinity.
It gives the rest of us not courage. It gives the rest of us a little bit motivation to say, okay, I can push it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've been killing it since the more I model Trump for my business, the more successful it is. And people love it. And it pisses off the feminists. And they're so annoyed by the hat that I, make women great again and all the stuff the manosphere does. Like, Yeah, he really is. I think he's a great teacher in a lot of ways. A lot of our marketing, I just watch what Trump does, and I try to model that and learn the principles, like what they're doing. It's been kicking ass. Like I love it. He doesn't get enough credit for being an educator. Professor Trump, who should call him. Yeah, people wonder how I do the marketing stuff for the business, but I watch Trump, man.
I remember watching an interview with the tennis player Michael Chang. I don't know if you guys ever are into tennis at all. And I remember seeing an interview it was like on NPR, a fairly lame interview on their part. But they said, well, you're going to be facing Andre Agassi or something like that. And like, what are your thoughts? Michael Chang was so friggin' focused. He says, I play to win. He didn't care who was on the side of the court. He goes, I play to win. Period. And I love that. And I think Trump is like that. Now, if you want to study Michael Chang, just anyone who's watching this, study how Michael Chang just became the tennis player that he is. He's brutal. Brutal. If you got hit with his tennis ball, it was like getting hit by like a cannonball. But he was brutal. He did not consider losing. Losing was not part of his vocabulary. When they say, well, what about if you were up against so? He's like, I play to win. His answer, well, what about this person? I play to win. It was his response to everything was, I play to win. Losing is not an option. And I love that. And that's Trump's attitude. He runs to win. Yeah. And he doesn't have to lie. He just has to tell the truth and, say it forcefully.
This is a great point, George, that you're talking here about Trump fighting to win constantly and always going after it. I agree with you 1,000,000%. He's open about that. That should be obvious. And Tex brought up Joe Rogan earlier. I like Joe Rogan generally speaking, but I've been disappointed. I was disappointed with him a couple years ago, and many other people too. In the beginning of Trump's term, they were saying, maybe Trump won't even run, in 2020 and for re-election and shit. I mean, that to me was a delusional take on Trump's personality. It showed me that either they're full of shit, but really I think they were just that ignorant and that stuck up in their head was so far up their ass. Trump, they couldn't even see his basic personality. The idea that Trump wouldn't run, he never even stopped running. He was holding campaign rallies in 2017 and 2018. Yeah, just like he is now. Like he was campaigning the whole fucking time. And the idea that he would leave in 2020 and not even run again is fucking delusional. Anybody, I think, who would known him throughout his life would be like, yeah, fucking right. You think he's going to be the president of the United States, roll up to NASCAR and Air Force One and do flybys, and he's not going to run again? Like, are you fucking stupid?
Do you remember that presidential, it was some sort of an event, gala event, and Obama was up there as president and was trashing Trump, who was sitting in one of the big donor tables right up front.
Yep.
And you go back and you watch that video and you look at the expression on Trump's face, and allegedly that's the day he decided, screw these guys, I'm coming for you. And you saw the look on his face. There's no way he's not going to go 8 years. And then when he starts triggering people like, maybe 12 or 16.
Yeah.
You can't do that, right? You can't do that.
Yeah, he sure can by having his son run. But
the point is that he just says it because he knows he can just trigger the hell out of him.
But what's the difference between Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr.? I mean, you're literally going to have, if his son becomes president, you'll have, and he wins his reelection, you would have 16 years of President Donald Trump, ignoring the junior or senior part, the suffix.
It's amazing.
Maybe that's what he.
It's the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Exactly. You'll have 16 years of the Trump administration, and then maybe Eric will run, and then maybe Barron will run, and Ivanka. It's unlimited Trump. That's he has so many kids.
Here's the other thing. Okay, he's very Machiavellian. I know Machiavelli talked about, like, don't be nice to the serpent that bites you. Like, utterly destroy the serpent. If you step on a snake, like, just destroy it, because it will play dead, and when you turn around and walk away from it, it'll bite your heel. So that's why he says utterly destroy your enemy. Trump said when they punch, he said, do what? Punch back. Go ahead, finish the sentence. I hit back
10 times harder.
10 times harder. Exactly. So
sometimes it's 100.
So
too.
he is, so he literally is utterly destroying his opponents. When I look at who he is, like, for instance, you remember in the original Republican debates, do you remember who he basically owned? And then remember who became his friend and who has been friendly with him since. All right. What did he call? He called Ted Cruz Lion Ted Cruz. He nicknames for people. And
Sleepy Jeb Bush. Sleepy Jeb. Sleepy Jeb.
He literally destroyed them. But think about who he's friends with now. Think about who he's friendly with now and who supports him and who learned something, like Mike Huckabee. How can you not like Mike Huckabee? Seriously, okay? But Mike Huckabee is now friends with the president because he respects him so much. I don't think Mike Huckabee had that he is a strong man. Let's get real. Huckabee is a strong man, but he doesn't have that savage nature that Trump has, that like push the ball down the field, push it. And I think that's where Mike Huckabee's nice guy thing, and I think Trump is a nice guy detector. I do, because he loves Mike Huckabee now. I mean, who else? Chris Christie. Who were the other people that were running? Who were on that stage? They're almost insignificant now because he literally
Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Dr. Ben Carson. I mean, all these guys are his buddies now. You're right. They're going along with it. Like, fuck it. They live in.
But they learned something from him.
Yeah,
but they now learned that you. Right, but they had to play to win. They realized Trump is there to win. So all is fair in love, war, and presidential races. I believe that is a fact. I mean, from what I understand, like in the Civil War, when Robert E. Lee surrendered to Grant, and he was brought to that tent. They saluted each other out of respect for the rank.
Yeah.
For the rank. Not Grant wasn't trying to destroy Lee as a man. He respected the rank. And I think the other guys that were on stage with Trump actually gained more respect for him. They underestimated him. And he pushed it. He pushed it to the point where he reminds me of Alexander the Great, that ordered his men march, and they started marching over a cliff. And the opposing army surrendered because they realized if his men would take orders like that, oh my God, he will utterly destroy us. And then, of course, Alexander the Great fell into a deep depression because there was more empires to conquer. It kind of reminds me of Trump.
Yeah. No, you bring up a really good point, George. I think one of the most important things Trump has done politically is ignore all the policies and regulation cutting and, whatever, all this stuff, all the executive orders. He has taught Republicans how to be more aggressive, massively. And I think in general, the American people, I've talked about this. I think I talked about this when I was interviewed for something earlier this year, the news and whatever. Like, Trump has taught the American people how to fight, particularly with the woke left and the culture wars and all this stuff. It's I did this in Make Them Great Again. I mean, that was a very aggressive, combative way to deal with feminists in a way that they've never seen. It was very effective. And I got that learning, just watching Trump and learning by osmosis, but also Republicans. Rand Paul, Lindsey Graham, all these nice guys are not nice anymore. Now they're more aggressive. They're a little more, 10% more masculine, 15% more masculine. They're more combative. They're willing to make fun of people more, right? Because they're watching what Trump does and it's working, and they're like, "Fuck it, it's working." Yeah,
I have seen those guys that stood on that stage. A couple of them. I watched Rubio. Rubio hasn't seemed to have gotten off like I thought he would. Ted Cruz has, though. I live here in Texas, of course, and Ted Cruz is our guy. Ted came out last year with the salt and pepper beard, and all of a sudden his ratings went up just by growing a beard and starting to man up a little bit.
He looks great.
He does. He does. But he's been, ever since that debate, when he lost it, he quickly came around, and he's like a no bullshit guy right now. And then he found out, they were spying on him too. during this whole thing. So that's got him all lit up as well.
Rubio, I think, is more controlled and he's more of a mama's boy, basically. So
yeah,
I don't think Rubio will ever kind of really man up. And
no,
I'm not
he's never gonna.
Rick Scott, the other Florida senator, is not. He's okay, but he's not aggressive like our governor is. Our current governor, anyway.
No.
Ron DeSantis. So he's not. I don't think he's a mama's boy like Rubio, but Rick Scott, I don't know what his deal is. He doesn't even seem deep state. He seems kind of like in his own independent, kind of like opportunist in a way. So it's all right though. He's not too bad. I don't want to beat up him too much.
You know who's been quiet? Who's the former governor of Texas? What was that guy's name?
Rick Perry. Yeah, he had 3 points, but he couldn't remember the last one. Yeah, it killed him.
Yeah, I remember. Yep, I remember watching that live.
Yeah. I really liked him a lot. I really did. And I thought he might have made a good vice president, and I wasn't crazy about Pence originally, but Pence, don't underestimate this guy. He's a solid Christian guy. I mean, Mike Pence is like Mike Foster. You guys don't know that, but this is a guy that goes to like Bible studies twice a week. He heads men's prayer breakfasts. He belongs to a Christian biker group. He has Davidsons. He rides with bikers. He belongs to a group that ministers. People don't hear this. That ministers to other bikers, outlaw biker groups, and he's a solid dude. And during those presidential debates back in 2016, Mike Pence and his wife every night would pray for each one of the candidates that they would just be their best, be as bold as they can, and whatever. And they weren't rooting for one. They were just praying for each one of those guys. And which Pence is a solid dude. I don't know. Some people have accused him of being deep state, but
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
I think he brought a little bit of the adulthood to the room. And there was some, when Trump's going off and doing and just being Trump, Pence is standing behind him, just being solid and just God got your back. And sometimes he's the adult in the room, and I always laugh about that a little bit. Here, you guys ever watch
Pence is the opposite of grab him by the pussy. He's the guy that says, wait till you're married to have sex and, kind of thing.
Some of you older guys will get this, but he's race Bannon. No one will get that reference.
He is.
But he is.
He is.
I think they're really good. I think they're a really good combination, though, and Trump recognized that, and I think that's why he picked Pence out of all his available options in 2016.
He had experience. He had experience governing a big state. He was good at it. He's mature. He's solid, and he has no scandals, man.
Yeah.
Right. He's got no scandals.
We've got grab him pussy as president, and then we have as vice president. I don't want to be in the presence of a woman without my wife present.
Pence,
he doesn't even want to be accused. He doesn't want to meet with a woman with the door closed.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Now,
and he's running vice president. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick hop in here. I do like Pence a lot. He's grown on me over the years. I don't think he's deep state. I could be wrong. I think he is much more. I think he is pretty MAGA, but I think he's also independent, and that to me is where the value is at. He doesn't seem like he's owned by anybody, not by Trump.
Right.
He's not Trump's dog. He does his own thing. I think Trump respects that. Pence is a man, old school man, and I like that a lot. I do think he's deeply Christian. I like that a lot, actually. I'm an atheist myself, an objectivist, but he is a man of conviction who believes in his beliefs, so to speak, and I like that a lot. I was not a fan of Rick Perry, and to be honest, though, I think he was just like another George Bush in the making. So I was never a fan of Rick Perry.
Very, very well could be, yeah. Well, did you see Pence get off the plane the other day? He walked down the stairs of the plane and he sprinted to the stage. Did you see that?
Sure. Yeah, there's a
when the people were waiting for him.
Yeah.
I mean,
just the fox, man, the silver fox.
I like the guy. Yeah. I think he's solid. I think he's.
I gotta go Google that. I gotta go find that.
You'll find
you gotta find that.
There's a picture someone took when George was talking about when he was running, where he was actually in the air, both feet off the ground. I mean, this guy was he was actually sprinting. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Old white guy. I like it a lot, man. Very white hair, white, white, all this stuff, white, super white. Like you mentioned, the old
And his
wise
wife,
man. Like, yeah.
The wife isn't the supermodel. She's super modest looking. She just looks like a woman you'd bump in the supermarket. They're not like a showy kind of couple or anything like that. He's just a solid dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he represents white people really well, to be honest, as like a demographic. He's this, really old Christian man. He's not crusty yet, but he's getting there. But just a really nice old white man who likes America and, stuff like that.
Well, they say that Obama selected Biden to pacify the racist Southern vote in the Democratic Party. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I've heard that, right? So, but I think at the end of the day, if something had happened to Obama, we would have had Biden as president. And that was pretty frightening at the time. I look at Pence, something was to happen to Trump. He got corona and died or something like that. Yep. Pence is okay. Pence can step in and run the thing, and that's what you want to see. And now I see Kamala Harris, and I mean, she's basically the sleeper candidate, and she's going to be, if he was to win it, she's going to be president within 6 months. They'll take him out with 25th Amendment or something. God, that's frightening as hell to me, and should be to every American out there. This woman couldn't even get her own people in the primaries to vote for her. I know. And now she's one sniff away from being the president.
One sniff. It's like House of Cards shit, man. Well, it's fucked up. Kamala's a real scumbag for sure. Yep.
Did you see President Duda of Poland take to the airwaves and say, I tested positive for COVID. I'm doing good. I'm healthy. And he pulled a Trump. He told the Polish people, my wife and I, we've what's the word? We quarantined. We are quarantined in our home. I'm working from home now, and my wife hasn't tested positive, but I'm here. I'm strong, and so he didn't feed into the fear that every time you get COVID, you're going to die. And I thought Trump. This is one thing that I've noticed. Whenever Trump meets with world leaders, and you get that long view, did you ever notice everyone kind of tries to gravitate to him to shake his hand? You can just see like when you see the group of people and Trump's in the middle, you see people working their way towards him. Mm-hmm. There's something about the man. He has an X factor. Other people, think about this, other men want to be like him. Gee, where have we heard that before?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I mean, some of the Jezebel feminists on that website, we could even pull it up, but they recognize Trump in a way as like a proto-manosphere candidate. He really is. If you look at the old, let me pull this up real quick. So, let's see, Chad. 1 second, guys. Yeah, jackpot. So, yeah, here we go. So, this is the Chad Thundercock that is a meme in the manosphere, right? It's some football player, probably from the 80s or 90s, looks like. Who knows what his real name is, but we call him Chad Thundercock, right? Absolute Chadzilla, just bangs all the cheerleaders, right? I had a guy, my high school quarterback was like this. He looked a lot like this guy, and he knocked up the 2 hottest cheerleaders in the school senior year, and they both carried a term. On graduation, they were both like 4 or 5 months pregnant, right? Now, I'm serious. I mean, he would walk into a classroom, and you would literally see the girls, all of them, start physically squirming, like in their seats, like just. Like it was fucking ridiculous, right? It was at the time we're just like, what magic powers does this man have? Like, what is this? But Trump is basically, he's pro wet ass pussy apparently. But this Chad Thundercock guy, I mean, what is Trump but this dude all grown up into a billionaire? That is, I mean, kind of like Trump, like, fuck you, ridiculous bullshit.
Listen to this. I got friends who attended Mar-a-Lago 4 years ago on New Year's Eve. I have a friend who, her and her husband joined Mar-a-Lago Country Club because and they go to dinner there every Saturday night. So at the restaurant. So they're in Mar-a-Lago, and they're sitting there, and who's at the next table is like Mike Lindell from My Pillow. Over here is this successful guy. Over here is this very successful CEO, female CEO. And they said it was worth joining just because people want to be around success. And they went on New Year's Eve. And these are people that lived in New York, that went to Times Square every year their entire adult life to ring in the new year while the ball dropped. They said New Year's Eve at Mar-a-Lago was infinitely more fun than New Year's Eve in Times Square.
Wow.
People want to be around the energy. And of course, the president and the first lady came in and shook everyone's hands and sat down and had dinner and mixed people and took selfies with people and all this kind of stuff. And gosh, I wish I could be at Mar-a-Lago this New Year's Eve. I mean, that was a dream of mine 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But they say Mar-a-Lago on New Year's Eve is going to be so badass.
Yeah, I'm sure, man. Trump's very human like that. I do want to bring up one more topic before Tex has to leave in a minute that I think George or Tex both mentioned earlier in the show. And somehow you guys mentioned trauma. And this is something I was thinking about before we even started today. Like the basis, I mean, look at the manosphere. Trauma for many men is the story of how they found the manosphere. It's what drove them to the manosphere, some sort of pain that happened, right? Oftentimes it's a toxic relationship or a bad divorce, child custody battles, getting, just butt fucked in family court. I mean, all kinds of, we hear it all the time, right? All the podcasts and manosphere and posts. But if you take a step back and look at trauma from a wider angle perspective, trauma tends to wake people up. They do one of two things. They put their head deeper in the sand or they start waking up. And I think most people start waking up from trauma. If not the first time, then maybe the second or third time, right? Eventually they fucking get hit in the head so many times they snap out of it, And if I look at the past 4 years, that's what was Tex talking about it, I think. If you look at the past couple of years of conservatives in this country and Republicans and Christians and all this stuff, and men, the way we're treated, Me Too, has really taken off since Trump took office, right? The feminists became more unhinged and more abrasive and more combative and more evil and more fucked up, more vicious in their attacks on men and fathers and masculinity. We've seen all this stuff ramp up past couple of years, right? I really think, though, that's traumatized a lot of the country in micro traumas, we'll call them, right? But they're legitimate. I mean, losing your account on Twitter with 800,000 followers because you're, conservative or something. Or look at Chris Pratt from the Avengers. His other Avengers on Twitter the other day had to go on a fucking defense tour for him because he's a Republican Christian who likes Trump. But he's an Avengers, so that's not allowed. And the fans are just going apeshit, right? He's a secret Trump supporter. Like, why do these Hollywood celebrities like Bruce Willis to Chris Pratt have to hide their fucking political lean? Like, oh, they want to vote. They want to vote for the incumbent president of the United States, and that's a secret. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, 2020 has been super traumatic for the country. In a lot of ways, the West and the world. But I think 2020, I guess where I'm going with this is I think 2020 has red-pilled a lot of people and what consequences voting has for your mayor and your governor and the local elections in the state and your cities and stuff. It's red-pilled a lot of people like that because it's been traumatic. They've lost their jobs. They've lost their businesses. They've seen cities burned down to the ground. They've seen cop cars getting Molotov cocktail blown up, people getting shot. And the whole year's been fucking nuts, to put it lightly. So I want to know what you guys think about that. Has trauma red-pilled the American people, and are we going to see that in a landslide? What do you guys think about that, the trauma angle for the election specifically?
Years ago, where I was living, in the county that I was living in Pennsylvania, very strong Republican county, but I saw it was a boys' club, and I didn't like the boys' club. I didn't like, as an independent, freedom-loving person, I found the Republican Party was the closest thing to where I could express my freedom-loving perspective. And I was reluctant to flip a lever for Republicans. And then they started calling themselves Law and Order Party. And I knew that was a tactic, but it was true. It was true. And I remember there was a district attorney that was running and wanted to use DNA evidence to, like, for instance, a Democrat district attorney candidate is pro-DNA to exonerate people. The Republican candidate is pro-DNA science in order to prove prove cases and build a strong case. And I saw the orientation right there: law and order versus loophole, law and order versus how much can we get away with. And at that point, that's when I said, okay, I'm flipping over for the Republican in the county where I lived. Right now, this upcoming presidential election, if you vote for anything, don't party, think law and order. Who is behind law and order right now? Who is behind lawlessness right now?
Yep.
Period. That, for me, I mean, think about Maslow's hierarchy. You know, I mean, the most important thing is safety, your safety needs. You know, and if we're not safe, if I don't feel safe in my neighborhood, if I don't feel safe walking the streets, what the hell good is it? Like, what good is your party if your party can't keep you safe? And of course, they can't guarantee your safety. But if the country is in chaos, and look at the cities that are getting burnt to the ground, they're all Democratic run. I don't want that happening where I live. I'm not interested in that. So for me, you know how they talk about soccer moms as a voter group? You think about the different voter groups. I'm in the law and order voter. I'm not Republican or Democrat. I'm in the law and order party. Whoever can talk about law and order, ballots, not bullets, has my vote.
Tex?
Yeah, I was in the grocery store yesterday, and I'm watching all the frightened people running around with masks on, and I see a few without them, and no one's challenging anyone that doesn't wear a mask. Just basically, they don't. I guess the store employees are just said, don't say anything, whatever. But I see fear in these people's eyes. I don't think, had there been, again, going off on my conspiracy thing, but if Trump wasn't running away with everything in December, January, and the economy wasn't booming and unemployment was the best it's been forever, it seems like, had that not been the case, I'm not sure that the response to COVID-19 would be as draconian as it's been. It is, I think, those who are opportunistic in our governments, both Republican and Democrat, in blue states and red states, took advantage of this little grasp of power, and they ran with it. And some of them gave it back a little bit quicker than others. The one thing that everyone said, Trump's going to be a dictator and all that. The one thing he hasn't done, he hasn't grabbed more power during all this stuff. He's had to go along with some of this stuff. We try to protect Americans. We want everyone to be healthy and safe. I'm just not sure that the response to this has been commensurate with the actual threat, when 99.9% of young people are not even going to be hardly affected by this, but yet we've got them all homeschooling now and back. So I predict that these are not micro traumas to some people. These are huge, giant traumas to others. Sure. And trauma is totally real, and it's totally can consume somebody and age them and put them into the grave. I think once the election is over, and once the shenanigans that will follow are over, I think that you're going to see this country start to return a little bit more to normal. The kids will all be back in school in January, I predict. Teachers need to get off their ass and quit being babies and following the Democratic rule. And I'm just saying, the Democrats want us scared. They want us at home. They want us not at church. They want us separated. They don't want us with our families during Thanksgiving. They want us apart. They want to divide us. And that's what I've seen everywhere I go. The kids will be back in school in January. We'll have a vaccine of some sort, and whether someone chooses to inject themselves with it is a personal decision. But those old people in the store that are running around with these mask on and a plexiglass shield and have the look of, oh my God, I'm about to die look on their faces. I'll
go further than you, Tech. I think most of the mainstream media, they really investigated the guilty of treason. Most of these governors are guilty of treason. I think most of them, the Democrat ones, have been actively trying to blow up the economies of their states. I'm fully on board with the idea that there's an NWO, kind of New World Order government, communist kind of one world government thing. They've been pushing hard, all this stuff. They really want to kill the United States.
Watch the movie The Plot Against the President, because if it wasn't for the complicit media, almost every media outlet this would have never succeeded. Right.
If nobody watched the news, you wouldn't even give a fuck about the virus this year. Nobody would care. You'd be like,
well, I
what?
mean, people care, right? But we had bird flu and we had H1N1 and all this other stuff, and we washed our hands more. We were careful on airplanes, and we just took precautions, and people died. Yes, more people died now of this, but it's been a worldwide epidemic. It's a different beast and all that. But I'm just saying, I think it's going to calm down. I think that some of these traumas are going to be a little bit more, are going to lessen somewhat. And things are going to calm down again, because I think a lot of the outrage is completely manufactured to score points against a political opponent. And I'll just leave it at that.
It's absolute hysteria. Like, it's insane. The idea that this virus has been, I think it's a real virus. I don't think it's fake, but the idea that it's a serious, I think the word pandemic has been abused to the max, to the balls deep. I mean, this is
the Black Death was a pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there have been real pandemic, the swine flu or the Spanish flu,
real.
like all this stuff, right? Real.
Biden says in the debate, we're going to be a dark winter. This is going to be the darkest winter yet.
For him, it is.
Told, yeah, this is serious. I mean, Alex Jones, is he really seem that crazy these days? No. Look at this insane, look at this insane shit this year. I mean, it's just endless shit show, man. Yeah, all these people, they need to be military tribunals, treason, like. They need to start locking people up at minimum and convicting them of treason. Like, this is serious. I think the country won't heal until people, elected officials and millionaires and shit, start going to prison or worse for treason. I'm serious. Like, we need a lot more than this country, and that needs to get going at some point.
This is what I said. You had all your friends, all your liberal friends on Facebook and Instagram, all do #resist. 4 years ago, and they resisted for 3 years. That didn't work out so well. So I believe that the globalists said, all right, assholes, show you how it's done. Is it no fucking surprise that a pandemic was created during an election year? Nothing, absolutely nothing is random in 2020. Nothing. If you remember anything from this broadcast today, nothing is random in 2020.
That's right. And George, remember the pandemic came right after the impeachment failed. Golly fucking gee. Like, what a fucking coincidence. These unhinged fucking weirdos going after this ridiculous impeachment bullshit. That fucking fails. Falls on its face. Trump laughs in their face about it, acquitted forever. And then boom, we have this magical fucking draconian ultra pandemic with a 0.01% lethality rate. It's fucking retarded. It's beyond retarded.
I mean, we just had a couple hundred men at 21 Summit, and we're all healthy. We all walked away.
Yeah, right? Superman spreader event. That's what we had, a Superman spreader.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, it's on YouTube. There was a bunch of black pastors that got together, and they were encouraging black men to buy guns, get trained, get concealed carry licenses. And it was a very famous black pastor that said, gun control is not about guns, it's about control. Mm-hmm. I will mirror his statement. Everything that's going on with the pandemic is about control. And in my sales training, and I know Tex, you have sales training, you were taught in your more aggressive training that people are silently begging to be led. People don't want to be managed, they want to be led. And that's exactly what's happening. The salesmen who do the best do what? They lead people to the sale. They walk them. They don't leave it up to the person. They get walked right to the piece of paper, the pen put in their hand, sign on the dotted line. Here's the contract. You'll be receiving your fleet of vehicles, or, whatever the merge. People need to be led. And what's happened is there are people who are begging to wear the masks, to the point where if you are not wearing one, you are a super spreader or some
killing grandma.
So if I could have one final thought, I don't care who you vote for, vote for freedom. That's it. Which one of these guys is going to give you more freedom to live your life and be a man and raise a family and protect those around you who you love? Vote for that, and the country will be okay.
Yep,
that's a good word.
And I don't think that means Trump 100%. I'm totally biased. Yeah, Biden's a piece of shit. I mean, I wish this guy the worst. He's not the worst. He's not as bad as Hillary, but yeah, just total corrupt goofball. Like, plus he has dementia. I mean, I don't even take him as a serious candidate. Like, this guy is an absolute puppet. I don't ever think he barely won the primary. I mean, the other people to drop out. They got their marching orders from whoever the fuck. I mean, yeah, it's just been he's been.
I still think there's going to.
Candidate.
I still think there's going to be a switcheroo.
Yeah, the last minute could be.
I still think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. The dude does a rally, he gets 10 people. Trump does a rally, he gets literally 10, 20,000. I mean, you can't even. It's so fucking. It's such a huge scam. Yeah, fuck all these fucking losers, man. I have no mercy. I have no patience and no mercy, especially after 2020. The shit show of draconian Orwellian lockdowns, all this fake garbage. It's all trash, man. Tar and feather.
Businesses closing down. Entire industries being wiped out. Restaurant industries. A lot of small guys who had like small little hot dog and hamburger joints got shut down. Salons, barbershop. You know, me being in the hair industry, I'm looking at salons and barbershops being sold for whatever they can get for them. I'm literally, I sometimes go on some of the business for sale ads, and I see salons being sold, barbershops being sold for 10, 15,000, and I know I walked in there with $5,000 in my hand, I would have that business by the end of the day.
Yeah,
because people are just like, screw it. The salon worked for closed down for 4 months, no income. 4 months.
Crazy.
How do you survive? How do you survive with no income for 4 months?
You vote Biden, apparently. I mean, you get more of it. You get more shutdowns and more lockdowns and more insanity.
Well, I will tell you this. Some of the people I work with, they were getting employment in Pennsylvania plus the $600. There were people who were making more money by not working than going to work. Mm-hmm. And then when salons came back open with all kinds of really ridiculous restrictions, people were like, I'm not going back to work. Shit. I'm making like $1,100-1,200 a week by not going to work.
Yep.
That's bizarro world, right?
It's communism. Beginnings of it, yeah. It's got to stop.
Well, where the hell's that money coming from? You know?
From you guys, from everybody, yeah. It's stolen through inflation. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, boys, I think Texas got to go. We'll wrap up the show. I appreciate both of your times. It's been
excellent.
Running, over an hour and a half. This has been a fun
I've
show.
enjoyed it. You know what? I could talk 5, 6 hours, 8 hours on this. I could just keep going and going and going.
I'm going to watch that movie tonight, Tex.
Me too. I've been meaning to watch that. I've seen Texas.
It's a documentary. It's basically a lot of great interviews, but you're going to gain insight. And it's stuff that you've heard, bits and pieces that you've heard for the last several years. But Amanda does a great job of putting in sequential order and making it all make sense. Yeah. And I mean, if Jim Comey doesn't end up in jail over this, then the country's got 2 systems of justice. You know, there's those there's the Washington D.C. justice, and there's what the rest of us all get. And if Trump can do anything, he'll end that, and we'll all have one uniform code of justice. And I wouldn't be, military tribunals would be fine by me.
Yeah,
you know, shoot them. I don't care.
Yeah, 100%. I'm all for it, man. Lock them up, all of them, dude. Yeah, I mean, due process, and then lock them up or execution, whatever the punishment is, man. Go for it.
Treason. This is treason.
Yeah.
You shoot people in the head when they commit treason.
Yep. All right, boys, we'll wrap up the show. Appreciate your time with that nice soft note. I did want to make a quick announcement here, too, that yesterday I put out a presidential proclamation on the total success of 21 Summit, 21 conventions, and Make Women Great Again. All these fine gentlemen, including George, including myself, and including Tex over here on the right. Many more for the 3 events we had at 21 Summit, the Patriarch Edition at 21, the main 21 flagship event, and the first ever 22 convention. I'll put a link in the description. You go check out the post, and it kind of summarizes the events, what happened this year with 21 Summit. But ultimately, the Manosphere is winning again, and it was a flawless victory and total success. It's an amazing year for the Manosphere, an amazing year for 21 Studios, an amazing year for making women great again, an amazing year for making men strong again, an amazing year for making families whole again. So check it out. And I'll have another big announcement tomorrow with the endorsement of Donald Trump officially as Manosphere president. It's going to piss off a lot of my enemies. I can't wait. So Gentlemen, thanks for joining me today. This has been a fun show. Everyone check out their channels and websites. You can go to texasdom.com and georgebruno.com and search for George Bruno on YouTube as well. Big channel. Texas channel as well. I think you can just search Texas Dom. It should pull right up. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, boys. We'll wrap up. Peace out. See you next week.
Thank you.
Probably.